Laughter for All podcast. I am Comedian Nazareth. Thank you for joining us. And we missed you a week or so ago. We had some technical difficulties, but praise God, we are back. And like usual, we always try to bring laughter, but more important than that, we try to bring the humanity of the guest, the open up and talk about life, and every single time in the process, people got encouraged, people were lifted up, and people laughed. So it's good to see you guys. And Teresa, how are you? Welcome to the show. So without further ado, I want to introduce our guest. He's a friend of mine, and he used to live in California. And when I started doing Christian comedy in California, he was one of the first people I got to meet, and just an amazing, genuine professional man. Paul Aldrich is a comedian, songwriter, and inspirational speaker. For over 35 years, Paul's funny music and hilarious stand up comedy have been featured at thousands of events across the USA and around the world. As a recording artist, Paul has 14 projects to his credit, including his award winning CD, Mock and Roll. While working on his BA in music education, Paul became a volunteer at Young Life Leader and began performing skits, leading songs, and creating his own humorous songs and routines. With his Young Life experience as a foundation, Paul started traveling throughout the U.S., bringing his unique brand of humor with a message to people of all ages. In the words of author Chuck Swindoll, Paul is very funny man and not a little bit crazy. If you can take a solid dose of outrageous fun, then Paul Aldrich is the ticket. In the words of Paul, I was born in Fresno, California, then lived in LA for several years before moving to Tennessee with my author speaker wife Kim. In addition to my life on the road, I produce and host the Paul Aldrich and Friends variety show in Franklin, Tennessee. Please welcome my good friend, comedian Paul Aldrich. Hi, Paul.
Hey, Naz, good to see you, man.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you for you look good, man. How are
Uh,
you?
I'm doing great, real good.
Okay, you left California.
I did.
Why? Why?
Oh, wow. A variety of reasons. A little lower cost of living here in Tennessee. A very central place to travel from.
Mm.
You know how it is. You're always working against time zones, traveling from the West Coast. So, a little simpler thing. Plus, to get a little bit connected with the songwriting community here in Music City. And so just a variety of those things. It was just kind of time for a new start. So lived all my life really in California until 10 years ago when Kim and I moved here to Middle Tennessee.
So you were born in Fresno?
I was born in Fresno. Yeah, yeah. Grew up there. Went all the way. Graduated from Fresno State and the music education degree. So I lived there, and then a few years after that before moving to LA.
When did you feel like, oh, I can play instruments, I love music? When did you feel that?
Well, I grew up in my mom played piano and just music was part of our the atmosphere. We had a woman who lived next door to us named Nelda Newcomb, and she taught piano. So my back in those days, people taking piano lessons was pretty common. So I went and took a few piano lessons, and I wasn't really into it. It was classical and I just couldn't dig that. What I was, what the Beatles were starting to be played on the radio, and I was trying to play these scales and things. So then I shifted to taking guitar lessons, and that's where it kind of really started connecting as far as, hey, this is fun, and investing and having some, just a great time doing that. So started taking guitar lessons, and then just joined a band in high school and stuff, and was singing in choirs and things like that in high school, and then on into church. So kind of a combination of music and church, and then just working at the craft in different ways.
Now, so you said you were doing the choir in high school, and like when you were in high school and all that.
Yeah, yeah,
So you
yeah,
were a believer back then, right?
yeah. I grew up in church, but I really connected with the Lord through an organization called Young Life, and that
Yes,
was
I'm
an
familiar.
outreach to teenagers, and that's where it just made sense for me. I'd grown up hearing all the hymns and the Bible stories and Sunday school and all that, but it really connected as a teenager. And when I really understood that God loved me, that it wasn't just a bunch of rules, it wasn't just the rhythms of the church at that time going through the motions, but it was really a relationship with Christ. And so through Young Life, I experienced the fun, the human side of that, and that led me to the truth of the gospel of this God that loved me, that loves everyone so much. And the timing was right. The seeds had been sown. I'm thankful for all those Sunday school teachers who I sent into retirement. Uh, just the people that sowed in my life when I was always energetic and verbal and had a comment for everything, and somehow people hung with me, my parents hung with me, and then God got a hold of my life, and that's really where uh, it turned the corner. And so then I was involved in singing groups in church, as well as choirs and things like that in high school. And so I went on to I was a music education major at Fresno State. Thought I might teach. I enjoyed working, just with music, and thought that might be an avenue, because at that time I had gone from being a kid in a Young Life club to becoming a volunteer Young Life leader. And
Mm.
that's where I really started working with audiences. All of a sudden, being in front of a living room full of teenagers, leading songs, doing skits, and then speaking simple gospel messages, just like I had heard when I was a Young Life kid. So that was really the model. In fact, I'd say what I do now really is just kind of a one-man version of a Young Life club, where I'll use music and comedy to capture people's attention, and then transition and try to just to see what God has to say in the moment. And just like there's all kinds of different events and ways to do that. Sometimes it's evangelical, it's an outreach thing. Sometimes you're encouraging believers in just in their own walk, or you're raising funds for a specific cause that is close to the heart of God. So the kind of transition can depend a little bit on the audience you're in front of, and the venue you're at, or the occasional comedy club where you're just bringing the funny, good, clean
Right.
fun, and the ministry really happens off the stage, more with people, with things like that. But I'm just grateful for that. Like I said, the church background that I had connected with just the love of God when I was a teenager. Boom, it came together, and that's what kind of started leading me down this path.
When did comedy kick in? I know you're doing music, you're performing, and all that. You're a leader of Young Life. When did the stand up? When did you feel like, wow, I'm funny? They're laughing.
Well, humor was always a part of it, because in Young Life, I mean, the clubs, it's not a church service, it's rowdy, and so you're leading songs. There's a lot of humor that's involved in all that, and leading skits. So we would be, I wasn't writing stand up or writing material at that time, but I was doing a lot of different things comedically, just as part of it. So I was, at that time, I'd say I was a funny music leader, but I wasn't necessarily a comedian. And then I got to work with some great comedians that you probably, guys you've had on your show, guys like Ken Davis.
Uh-huh.
I was mainly traveling in California at that time, doing just kind of as a song leader, doing special events for camps, for youth
Uh-huh.
retreats or whatever. And then I get to work with Ken, and I can still remember the very first time I heard Ken speak, and I'm sitting in the audience and watching him just be, Tonight Show stand up, funny, hilarious. And then he turned the corner and started
Mm.
talking about the father heart of God. And I mean, you could hear a pin drop. Everybody was locked in. And so that power of humor with a message,
Mm.
that to me, that just made sense to me. And so I was looking like, what he's doing, that I want some like there. And so I talked with Ken, and just, I learned a lot just by watching him, but then talking about, how his approach to things. And so I began writing really my own material. I had written a handful of songs, but writing comic songs based on, sometimes on the topics he would do stand up. I would write songs about that. I also worked with a guy named Pat Hurley, who did a lot of retreats and different things. And I just
Mhm.
took the same kind of thing. Pat would do a whole routine about gross cafeteria food. Well, then I wrote a song called Cafeteria Food. And Ken would do a bit on his parents, and then I'd write a song about kids and parents. So I started doing kind of a musical version of things that Ken and Pat people did, and that led to all of a sudden I sort of transitioned over time from being a song leader to being more of a performing comedian. And so, or because early on I would do like concerts, but I'd do like cover songs of Christian music of the day or whatever. And then all of a sudden I started putting an act together, and so a lot of song parodies, original songs, some serious, and then all of a sudden the intros to the songs grow, and now that's a stand-up routine. So it kind of, the increments sort of came together. But I'm so grateful, that just God brought guys like Pat and Ken across my path that were examples, and many other really really funny speakers. Just I worked with so many great people, and I know like you, one of the great things about this job is the people you get to work with, pastors, churches, ministries. It's amazing how I look back. I'm 65 now, looking back like,
You
my
are.
gosh,
Ah,
what an incredible group of people I've got to work with. Some of God's greatest servants through the years. It's just been fantastic.
I remember the first time I saw you. I remember that in 1992 when I came to Christ. I think a year later, I started a comedy club in a
Hmm.
church in Tustin, California.
Yeah,
And you came in as a headliner once. And, I was watching Christian comics. I mean, there weren't much, five or six at the time,
right.
but there were another comedian who was doing the guitar. But a lot of comedians who do parody songs, they're
Right.
just like they're playing that. You were actually playing the guitar. You were actually not just doing like B, C, D. You were actually really going at. I'm like, this is a professional musician. That's hilarious, and it's just amazing. So, do you still practice like when you're playing and stuff? Do you pray every
Uh,
day?
Well, I this is one of the things with age. I don't play a lot because physically now, just with like I think the years of playing, the stress is put on my arm. I can't play a lot. I really, it's one of my, if there's anything I'm frustrated about as I grow older, I just can't practice like 3-4 hours a day like I could growing up. It's just the body just can't sustain it. So most of my practice is when I'm working on new bits and just learning new tunes, and that sort of puts the practice into my fingers and my hands. Although I've had a pretty good run this year. I think maybe the slowing down with the whole COVID season last year, maybe my body could have used the rest. So so far it's having a good year. But I mean through the years I've practiced a lot, and then it'll be kind of like I said streaks when I'm trying to learn something new or branch out. But the music's a big part of it. I mean, I get booked as a comedian, but I'm really an entertainer. That's for like a comedian, I'm a really good guitar player, and for a guitar player, I'm a pretty good comedian. I don't know that I'm great at either one, but the combo works to make something unique, and I try to just give people a wide palette so of just experience so that they never know quite what's coming next. And then I can also turn the corner, which is different from what a lot of comedians do. I can go into a mellower space because of the music, doing ballads and writing serious songs that could last for several minutes, as opposed to with comedy, you have to be careful of if it's too serious for too long, it's just energy goes from the room. You have to find ways to space it out. So the music lets me kind of I think gives me a little more flexibility just to just kind of stay in the sacred space sometimes in certain events.
If God said, Paul, okay, yeah, either music or comedy, what would you choose?
Oh, music.
Music. I knew it.
Yeah,
I knew it. I knew it.
yeah.
I knew that.
Yeah, I
Uh,
find I find comedy's hard, man. Writing stand up for me, I have to force myself to write stand up because the structure of music, the math of it is just easier. It's just probably pure laziness, but I also just love the energy and the the music vibe of it. So the music gave me a place to glue the comedy to. Um,
mm.
but boy, without both, I mean, I don't know. I can't separate them anymore, I guess.
When you prayed, Lord, okay, I want to do this. I want to do that. This is what I want. You were watching, and you probably God put a dream in your heart, like, okay, I want to be at that level as an entertainer. In where are you at with that? Is this like, oh
Mm.
man, I should have been ahead. I'm good. You're good because you're very good. I mean, you go, I
Yeah.
should have been ahead, or where's that in your head?
Well, it's interesting looking back. There's a few moments that I I can trace with the journey because looking for the hand of God and things like, okay, how does this make sense? And when I was a volunteer young life leader, I went to a leadership training retreat, and they asked a very interesting question in this small circle of people that I was with. They said, if you could do anything you want, what would
Mm,
you do? And what they're trying to do is like they wanted people to answer, I want to be a young life leader, because if you don't have that kind of passion, then
they
this
don't.
isn't the job for you. Just like if there's something else burning your heart, go do that. Don't waste our time. Don't waste your time. And so I was just sitting there thinking, like, well, if I could do anything I want, I'd play my guitar and tell jokes. Now, at that point, there was no Christian comedy world. There would be one
Right.
or two
I
comedians that
remember
people
that.
had heard of. There were some funny, Christian, like Randy Stonehill and people like that. But there was no circuit. There was no, oh yeah, and then here's you go, and you go to this conference and you do. No, there was none of that. You're just on your own. This is a 20-year-old with a stupid idea, like, well, if I can do anything I want to, that was it. But I look back at like that was me speaking from the heart of who God made me to be, and
Mm,
so that kind of that knowledge, something connected later on when I look back at that, I remember that, I could replay the video of those words coming out of my mouth, and while I had no career aspirations in mind, that was my heart speaking. And so I think when you have that, it can sustain you through the ups and downs, because it's a weird job, it's a crazy job. Most people run away from public speaking, and comedians not only embrace it, they demand response from their audience. So very different from a musician. You play your song at the end, everybody claps, okay, we're all
right.
happy. In comedy, at the end of a music night, people might go, hey, what did you think of it? At the end of a comedy night, no one has to ask that question. We all know. It's like, I'd have to ask you, if you didn't laugh for 40 minutes, we know, yeah, really didn't enjoy this.
Right.
There's no question. It's a very high risk, high reward kind of a journey, but something about it has to make sense in your brain. There's definitely a brain damage element to it all that makes this appeal to run to the thing that most people would move away from. But there's also that power, and I think, especially I know because of your ministry, that combination of humor and message, of humor and holiness, when you put those things together, I just think it's a powerful, powerful force. It was in my life when Young Life used humor to capture my attention and lead me to the throne of God. And when you get
Mm,
to be a part of that, of watching people's lives change, whether it's in an evangelistic setting, actually the light goes on and they're entering the kingdom, or sometimes you can just feel the Spirit in the room. The healing of just the laughter itself is palpable. And so the the assurance of a calling, I think somehow looking back, that I knew in hindsight, I didn't know in the moment, I think for me has been important, because there's enough downs in this thing that you want to be sure you're in the right place, because if you want to just cruise, this is not the job.
no, it's not the job. Now you lived a long time in California, and now for the last 10 years in Nashville.
Yep.
What have you noticed the difference the people in the people, not the places, between Californians and Tennesseans, or whatever they
Um,
call them?
well, I don't know if there's a huge difference. I think the pace here it's just a gentler place to live. It's just not as intense. I think just of the traffic and proximity and all that stuff. The atmosphere is more relaxed. People, it's very, especially here in Middle Tennessee, a lot of transplants, a lot of Californians live in Williamson County where I live. So that wasn't that radical a change. This feels much more akin to Orange County than than LA County where I live.
I know what
So
you're saying. Yeah.
yeah. So but I think the difference is, it just in travels in general, city versus country. City people tend to be have a lot in common versus rural is different. I find that divide more telling than California versus Tennessee. That's real general, but LA versus Nashville, well, they're cities. They've got a lot in common, except I would say there's just a gentler atmosphere. In LA, if somebody says, let's have lunch, that means goodbye. But in Tennessee, it means let's have lunch. So you have to interpret things a little differently here, I think.
You're right. Paul, you were single until what age?
I got married at 45 for the very first time.
For reference. So what was
Yeah.
that like coming? Because I think being single at 40, were you in those years before like and 35 and 40 going, uh, God has someone for me, or you were like, okay, I'm done. If it happens, it happens.
Mm.
What was your thoughts back
Ooh.
then?
Well, I'd say it phases in and out of those things. Sometimes uh, you can be really discouraged. This is a lot of this life is you're on your own, pretty disconnected. Even going, being a part of a church, quote unquote. Like, well, how often do I actually get to church when I'm working weekends and this and that? So I'm a church could be a church attender, but I might get there maybe once or twice a month, maybe
Right.
sometimes
Because
not
you're
that
working.
much. Yeah, if you have a career, then you need to generally go somewhere else, that is not in your neighborhood. So, uh, so it was hard. It was a real challenge. Sometimes I had a piece. I mean, I saw enough marriages breaking up and things around me where I wasn't Pollyanna. It's like, oh, if I was just married, I could be like those depressed people who got married and it didn't work out. So there was enough reality check in my life to where I want to be careful. Plus, because of the job I had, I didn't have margin for error. I couldn't uh, I couldn't stumble in the dating world and continue my job, and I
Mm,
watched people fall, married, unmarried, whatever, it's like that wasn't an option. So holding a high standard in that way was really, really important. And I guess probably I'm just stinking picky. And you know exactly, you have to have somebody there's a rhythm to somebody's sense of humor that's just necessary. They need to get you at a certain level, and when you can tell that so quickly, I think, for the most part, in picking people up, whether they're connecting with someone, is this even an option? And then when it's not, I just don't waste my time. Just I used to tell a joke, that the joke is kind of set up. Hearing somebody laugh is great, but sometimes 2 minutes is plenty when they continue laughing, and it's a little crazy. Like the inappropriate laughter to what you said, just like, okay, this is not. You're so funny. It's like, okay, that's
yeah, sure. That's
not
not the.
quite the fit here.
So how were you scared when Kim and you just started going? Wait, we're getting serious here. Were you scared?
Oh wow! At times, yeah. I mean, it's a big change. It's a big commitment. Plus, I'm in my 40s, and uh, you're set in your ways in so many areas. I'm not needy or dependent. Like, oh gosh, I have to get married because I can't take care of myself. Well, I can't take care of myself by now. What am I don't need someone to take care of me, or to complete me so I could be happy through a day. I mean, God had done enough of that work in me where I was content to a certain degree with my life, and I was having a great life. There was a lot that was good, but there was also a loneliness there, wanting to partner,
Mm,
wanting to connect. I think just that it isn't good for men to live alone thing. That's in the DNA too. And so
mm.
when we connected, our story was interesting because we actually dated on and off for 7 years.
What?
Yeah, yeah, we dated on and off, and actually more off than on. So it's not like
Uh,
we dated for 7 years and then finally got married. There was just ups and downs, different things we had to work through. And so it was a roller coaster. It was very hard. My heart goes out to single friends because this is back then. Now we've been married for 20 years, and that seems like the dark ages. But now I can't imagine with society, the identity confusion, challenges, society with all its complexities, dating in this day and age, and trying to sort stuff out. Man, I look back. We actually had it pretty simple, even though it took us a while because of challenges we'd each had maybe from the past about whether it's family or other relationships or just things in general. But one of the things that was buzzing that I would say about my wife is just I never doubted her heart for God,
Mm.
and that's why I think we kind of kept coming back because there was never a question that she was going to be a Christ follower all her days, with or without me. That I wasn't responsible for her being a God seeker, and
Mm.
nor she for me. And I think that's been the glue through the years. And there's ups and downs in well, it happens, man. Life seasons come, seasons go, but that we had that spiritual connection in common, not just and we were both Christians, but no, we had a similar passion for God. God had done a similar work in our heart, and we had a
Mm.
similar desire to bless people with our lives, with our skills, and so that connection is definitely what kept drawing us back to go up and down for 7 years, and then to finally make the plunge. But it was still scary because boy, it's a commitment, and it's never the same. And that wasn't I don't know, it just wasn't a casual like, hey, I hope this works out. It's like, no, I'm all in, and I'm still
Do,
all in, but it's
do you
work.
remember? Do you remember the seventh time the deal closer, the sale? Do you remember what was it that said, "Okay, let's do it then"? After
Mm.
7 years on and off.
Well, I think it was more Kim's hesitation than mine, due to
Mm.
just challenges with her past. I would say where so she finally was at a place where she was ready, and then I had to. What was hard was like, oh, you're ready now. I had to really look at it because it just hadn't been a possibility up till that time. So it was sort of weird. Like, oh, I guess the ball's actually in my court for a change.
For a change now.
And then I was like, oh, and then she's like, she's ready to go, and it's like, well, could I have a moment here, because
Uh-oh.
I've been kind of hanging on the edges for quite a while. So I don't know, just it was a step of faith at that point, because there was a lot of hurt through the years of the on and off thing. It's like, man, I got some healing here. I'm ready to go forward, but I'm still kind of hurting. This has been a long journey. Still
Now,
a few skin knees to take care of.
what was the first year where like, nope, this is how I do things. This is how I've always done things. I'm not talking just you and her. Was that there? Was that there conflict?
Well, I think uh, a little bit. I mean, but I don't think that we weren't the gee, you're squeezing the tube of toothpaste wrong. It was not that stuff. It was more, I think, kind of wanting to make up for lost time, and just you know, we wanted
Mm.
to have a mature relationship immediately, and it just has to go at the pace it goes. I think we're just trying, not just like everything had to be perfect, but just we want to bless each other, and help each other achieve everything that God can through us. And I think just letting it take its natural pace was maybe one of the adjustment challenges. Expectations just being brought into reality, and just learning to serve. Especially the challenge after being single all my life until 45. You don't realize basically how selfish you are, how much
Ooh, wait. Stop,
routine.
stop, 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 stop. Oh my Lord. This is powerful. This is powerful. Oh my Lord. I mean, I have a lot of single friends, and you are right. Say that again, Paul. Say that again.
Yeah,
People need to hear this.
after 45 years of being a single guy, you don't realize how selfish you are. Just
Wow.
how your routine can be something you worship, or that is your identity, and for it to be interrupted can feel like, well, that's not right, because this is the way it works. And seeing that, I mean, that's one of the biggest things I think about being married. It's just if you want to remain distant and self-focused, then don't get married, because you get married, man, it gets it's a butt kicker of just seeing. You want to find out how to serve somebody? Well, get married and commit and be all in, because you're going to learn to be a servant. The Our society's sort of romanticized version of all that, I think, is doing a huge disservice to people, because basically you're signing up to serve and to constantly layer down both sides, and man, it was a wake up call. It was hard. I just didn't realize how much my rhythms and my routines, I were almost worshipped, and how
Mm.
those had to be laid down, and God ready to stretch me, and seeing that, like, when it comes down, I think God's always whispering, yeah, Paul, like I've been doing for you all your life, and keep doing how I keep being patient with you when you mess up, and I go, okay, come, yeah, like, now you do that, and you keep doing that, because that's how this thing works. So there's an ongoing learning how to be Christ-like, and it can only happen in that crucible of taking your selfishness, your self-focus, and just putting it on the altar again and again and again.
You're right. You're right. Yes. And what do you call it? When you marry someone, you're an entertainer. I mean, regardless how Christian you are or how godly you are, your mind is going focused on your career, on your
Yeah.
show, and you need a spouse that kind of support that. But you married a speaker and an author, so she has
Right.
her own. How is that? How did that conflicted or became one flesh together?
Yeah. Well, it is a challenge, because it's not like she just sits around and goes, well, how can I help Paul with what he's doing? She's got her own visions and callings and things. So, just a short story on my wife. She has written a book called Discipleships. You can go to kimaldrich.com, check her book out. So
Uh,
Kim has a ministry of mentoring. And so she comes alongside mainly millennial girls, and just pours her life into them one on one. And then she also teaches at conferences and things, usually on the subject of discipleship. So she just pours into lives constantly, and that's where her thoughts are going. And so when she wrote that book, I mean, a lot of our focus was on getting that book birthed and the whole thing. And so that's like, what about my stuff? Well, this or that, so you definitely have to find rhythms in each season to make sure you're looking out for each other, because there are deadlines and there's callings and things you have to go through. So it's generally worked out well. I mean, the upside is they can understand your world pretty well, because they have enough of that world of their own. When you have
mhm.
somebody who is also an entertainer, minister, speaker type person, um, but finding airspace for both things, at times it's a bit of a trick.
It is, and it's hard. And sometimes when her success is moving, you go, how come I'm not getting there? Or
Right.
should I, uh, would I put away some of my work and help? And that's what you were doing. Wow,
Yeah.
that's very interesting. Have you guys ever considered adopting children?
We talked about it, because we got married. We're both in our 40s when we got married, and so there was kind of a very small window for us to have kids on our own, and didn't happen. And we talked about it, and the pieces just never lined up. But I sort of feel, especially with Kim's mentoring ministry, we don't have a biological daughter. We got a lot of daughters, and that's been fun to just kind of partner along with her in her connecting with some of these 20 somethings through the years, and watching them mature. And so I play a very minor role in that, but it's fun, because sometimes uh, I might be the male role model that they have, even though I'm barely in their lives. It's very strange to think about. We had one young lady, this is when we were still living in Redondo, she came over, and after dinner, she talked with Kim. It's just like, I can't believe he asked questions about me and then listened for the answers.
Wow.
She had never had a man in her life do that. She didn't have a father who lived at home. and the men that have been in her life. I mean, no one ever took the time to ask her a question and sit and let her respond. And so like I said, we don't have biological daughters, but we got some daughters, and so that's been, I think, fills that place to a certain degree, though it's different. But I want to encourage people out there, just to, you know, you're running across somebody's daughters or sons all the time, in your life, at whatever age they are, people, you never know the stories behind those faces. And so you can, most of the time, you can own the world for a question. If you ask them a question and listen for the answers and don't get it, oh, well, that reminds me of another thing about me. If you'll wait, because people want to be heard, but most people are kind of shell shocked, and so you gotta give it time. You gotta wait for the answer, or maybe you ask a follow up question so that they feel it's safe to actually open up a little bit. But
Mm.
I think the harvest really is ripe if we will, take that time to ask a question and wait for an answer. Uh, and so it's been fun to be a part of Kim's. Kim's an expert at it, and occasionally I get to throw in my 2 cents with just a little bit of a guy perspective, and that's really an honor.
Uh, Now, you're a great musician. Who do you think are great musicians or
Oh,
Christian
wow.
artists? Yeah, from your
Wow.
opinion.
Well, of guys that I know personally, the guitar players I know personally that just just freak me out. Phil Keggy.
Of
Phil
course.
lives here in the Nashville area. He's been on a few of my shows, and I've gotten to know Phil, especially since moving to Tennessee. I've been a fan of his most of my life. This guy named Bob Bennett, that's an acoustic
Yes,
guitar player, lives in Southern California still. And
I know
Bob's
him.
music just impacted my life radically. His songwriting and his heart, the intelligence of his lyrics. So the Phil as a guitar player, Bob as a poet on guitar.
Mm.
Those guys are, were real influences. Again, I'd say along with someone like Stonehill and his combination of humor. Um, and then there's a guy named Tommy Emmanuel. He's from Australia, and if you haven't ever heard Tommy, go just watch anything on YouTube and be amazed. And
Mm.
I've gotten a bit of a relationship with Tommy as a friend, and he's just a fabulous acoustic guitar player. Solo thing. Tommy, to me, he's the Louis Armstrong of the guitar. He's the goodwill ambassador of guitar, and he's fabulous. So those guys, quickly leap to mind. Uh, but some of those are influences. Some of them are friends. As far as influences go, I think I go back to like the Smothers Brothers. Uh, just the combination of what they did. I sort of just play both parts. Uh, but if I model after anybody, it's those guys that kind of give and take the music, starting and stopping and jumping in and in character, out of character, just the way that they do things. But there's just so many fabulous musicians. And of course, Nashville is full of just ridiculously talented singer songwriters. There's guys here in Nashville that I admire so much. Andrew Peterson is a guy in his 40s. If you haven't heard Andrew's, go hear his stuff, or you might know his song "Is He Worthy?" That's kind of a worldwide anthem now.
Uh,
Andrew's fabulous. And then a friend of his, Andy Gullahorn, that lives here locally. These are guys that I've gotten a little bit of a relationship. Again, they've been on my Paul Aldrich and Friends shows, and just who I just respect immensely as songwriters and as men of God. So those are some of the younger guys I'll say that I've gotten to know that I really respect.
what do you tell younger entertainers now starting out in the Christian market? What
Hmm.
advice do you give them?
Well, it's I'm at a loss in some ways because it's so different than when you and I started out. So I don't know, they would know so much more about the social media world because they've grown up in that. They are one with the internet, and so much of the world is internet based now. Whatever you know career practical advice. I don't know that anything. I'm a dinosaur, and I'm going on Social Security soon. I don't know what I got to say to them.
No,
But
you're an entertainer. Wait, it doesn't change. I mean, you go back in history, entertainment is entertainment, funny is funny,
yeah,
great music is great music.
yeah, I guess for me, it just as a if I was talking to a Christian, it would just first and foremost go deep in Jesus because uh, this going in the Christian entertainer route, it will crush you if you don't have a solid foundation in Jesus. You will go off the rails and you will crash and burn. It has to be about Jesus. If it's about you, go a different path. Go work in clubs if you're a comedian. Go do the writers rounds if you just want to make it as a songwriter. But if your passion is ministry, and for me that was what ministry led to the career. I
Hmm.
that was my path. I became a Christian through people that were entertaining ministers, through young life leaders, just amateurs who were funny and hilarious and loved God. And then I started just serving youth groups and things, playing music, playing with a friend of mine, Randy Freeman, that I grew up playing guitar and then traveling around to different camps and all that stuff. And it was the ministry of that led to it becoming a thing. So if you have a ministry, my experience is just that's where I come from. Other people, have their own path, but it's just got to be Christ centered. And beyond that, then just work hard at your craft. You know, find connection with other people that you admire or watch what they do. Learn, study, and get better. Don't settle for the mediocrity. And I'm trying to keep pushing myself. I'm still trying to write. I've got one routine I'm working on now. It says like I am going to get this thing. It's the
What
hardest
is it
thing I've ever
about?
put together.
What is it
It's a
about?
it's a through the years I've written a lot of different songs for different special occasions and holidays, and I'm basically combining them into one medley that's going to be about 7 minutes long. So it's
Ooh.
going to be a whole bunch of short things, and it's a challenge because it blends one thing into another, and so musically it keeps changing keys and this and that. So the transitions of it it's like tweets. They just have to be short to the point, this and that,
Mm.
and then writing things, and then it's logistically the trickiest thing I've ever done because it's not just like writing a song, verses, choruses, and this and that. You've got to find ways to, you know, if you got a song that's up, then the next one can be down a little bit. Riding the waves and all in 7 minutes to keep, it's a bucking bronco of up and down. So, but I think it has a lot of potential of taking people through a calendar year. So it goes linear from, New Year's through to the Super Bowl to Valentine's to whatever, to President's Day and, then Cinco de Mayo. And it just throws in little tastes of all these things. And then the bit wraps up with a Christmas thing, but it's more serious. And that's one of the things I love about it. It's like it arrives at this place, and I think it's something I can do anywhere in a club, in a
Mm.
corporate things. Sometimes we have corporate audiences, but if they're generally going to be conservative friendly, not antagonistic, or Christian friendly, maybe not, at least not opposed. And
Mm.
so I hope this is going to be one of those bits that I can take them. You sort of earn the right as you do justice in a silly way to these holidays, and then land with this good news of this child, this love
Wow.
itself coming into the world. So I'm going to see how it works. I've just started. I did it for the first time three nights ago,
Mm.
and it's like okay. And it's the pain of doing a routine. It's just like, especially when you aren't working as much in this COVID era.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
about I'm about 10 gigs from having it down, but gosh, if I don't get more working on my calendar, it's going to take me a while.
Paul, I did several shows sporadically throughout COVID, but
Yeah,
we
me
used to
too.
go 3 times a week to once a
Mm.
month. And last weekend I was in Bend, Oregon, so I did something on Saturday, and then on Sunday we had a full crowd. Which is, I want to say that because if there's pastors listening, the pastor was expecting what, 50 people. He's
Mm.
like, nobody's gonna show up. This is a Sunday night.
Yeah.
There's a, over 350 people showed up, and he
Mm,
filled up his sanctuary. He filled up the overflow room, and he was amazed. And everybody came out and said, man, we want to come out and we want to laugh. So
mm,
that's for people who are watching this. But you know what I
amen.
know? By that time, by yesterday, I figured, I said, you know what? I'm back in the rhythm and back
Yeah.
in the rhythm of things. And that's the problem for us in pandemic. But how did you go through that pandemic, the whole year and 2 months? What was
Well,
that
it
like?
was a very interesting year for me. I actually had a great year
Mm.
because I got the first ever regular job. It just worked out. At the beginning of the year,
Uh-huh.
I got a job working at a resort about 90 minutes south of where I live, and so they were building this new kind of senior focused resort where they've got, you can buy a home, you can lease an apartment, and they built this dinner theater. It's like a 275 seat dinner theater. And so I was opening. They would do monthly shows basically, and I would open for their headliners. Like I got to open for Jim Stafford. I got to open for there's a band from the '80s called Exile, and then I would open
Uh,
for a lot of tribute artists,
uh-huh.
like Neil Diamond tribute artists and a Johnny Cash tribute artist, and these kinds of things, and or work with my friends, Jeff Allen. We booked Jeff, and I was doing the booking side of this in conjunction with my boss.
Awesome.
Victoria Jackson came and did a show with us. So it was just a lot of fun. So now it turned out we were just on the launch pad of this thing really taking off when COVID hit. And so this
Oh.
turned out not to be the greatest year to launch a senior focused entertainment venue. So we
So
had to
they're
do a
closed
lot of,
now.
yeah, well, we had to do a lot of shuffling, but then we got back on track because in Tennessee things were, I mean, in California you would be done. But
Right.
by the time, June came around, we were kind of back in action with social distancing and with this and that, but it was tougher to get folks out because of just all, the fear that was
Right.
going on. But nevertheless, so I actually had consistent work because of that. So while I I flew the first week of March, and then I didn't fly again until October, and that was my one flight for the rest of 2020, when
Uh-huh.
normally, that would be a monthly, you know even
Right.
a few times a month kind of thing, depending on how things go. So everything canceled, everything kicked, but that sustained. So it was wonderful because the from a comedian standpoint, the pandemic is sort of a gold mine because there's always fresh news you can comment on all the
Right.
time. It's just changing, and so if it's, oh, we've run out of toilet paper. Okay, there's a joke or a song there. Okay,
Yeah.
and then it's this, and it's masks, and it's the government, and it's so there was a lot of stuff to play with as I'm kind of being a commentator for the years. I'm opening at these resort shows, so
Right.
that made it easier. So it's funny now that that job ended at the end of 2020. So I'm almost feeling like COVID is hitting me now. Like, oh, that's right. I've got to resurrect a career here. I've got to keep writing and write non-COVID jokes, and I need to. I guess I should try and get some bookings here and to follow
Right.
up and get new material in the pipeline. So it's kind of hitting me now. What was hard last year was watching so many friends suffer, of
Mm.
comedians, musicians, and here in Nashville, so many people work as part of the industry. Truck drivers and backstage people and sound engineers and all these people. These are my friends, and they just nothing, just nothing.
Mm.
Friends with they did like one night of a tour, like you mentioned Michael W. Smith. I had a friend. Yeah, we went out one night, and that was it. And so
Yep.
they had their year planned. They were going to do spring and fall, and it was all locked in. And then it all went away, and it didn't come back. And
Right.
that was just crushing. And then so think of, it's all the entertainers, but it's the caterer, it's the drivers, it's the lighting people, it's the sound people, it's the sound company, just crushed. So that was hard watching friends suffer and struggle, and so I was kind of really, I felt incredibly blessed to have some consistency while everybody else had complete havoc. Now I'm dealing with the havoc. I'm coming late to the party, I guess.
Now, you mentioned something earlier, Paul, about that you were writing a 7 minute bit, and you said if people were, kind enough and or like nice to Christianity. Have you had to change any of your older songs to fit this woke culture, this politically, not politically, very sensitive, just social justice?
Yeah, well, it's always a consideration any time, any season. What offends people in this era? Because I mean, I'm sorry, my through the years, just like that's just part of the job. I'm going to offend people. I have to make peace with that. As a comedian, if occasionally you don't offend somebody, I think maybe you're just button pushing and maybe you're just too much of a suck up. That's just my opinion. Uh, if you aren't challenging, I just then maybe you're just preaching to the choir, you know, just too much, so I've always dealt with that to a certain degree, and so there's a natural thing where the culture changes. Like you might, 30 years ago, I might have done something that had a fat joke. Now
Mm,
I wouldn't say the word fat
right.
because now it's your body shaming or this. It's like, okay, that was then there was an acceptable vernacular you could use, and now that's changed. So some of that is always in flux, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But now you've got the woke, the political correctness thing, and that's a whole different deal, and it is complex. Like I want to push the envelope, but like I did a parody. I won't do it because I don't want to actually get any letters. But where the lyric is just, it basically was making a statement that two genders is a good thing. Like
Mm.
what happened to two genders? That's really the thing. And man, I could feel the air go out of the room when, because the subject just being brought up, you know, be, and it's like, okay, so no one's telling me I can't do that, or well, sometimes they are, but it's not effective. If I want to speak to that, I've got to find another way to
Mm,
speak to that particular issue, because everybody's so sensitive to it. They just rather not have it brought up. Please don't.
yes.
If I don't want to have see some. They don't want to have someone see them laughing at that joke, or they're going to cheer, and now it's like becoming, you know, uh, a Trump rally or something, and it's just like there's a
Right.
time for a Trump rally, but it's not if I'm in a room of mixed people. I want to bring people together, not throw out things that are going to make the sides split, one side and the other. So it's a challenge, and I'm part of a writing group, and we all we always kind of look like, okay, can I do this? Is this too much? Is there a better way? Sometimes it's in the setup,
Mm.
and if you set people up, if they can be prepared that something's coming. I used to do that with. I had a song called the Dysfunctional Family Theme Song, and I would and it would just make fun of a typical dysfunctional family theme song, which is really funny unless that song is sounding exactly like your life, and then it could be crushing somebody's feelings. But I prepared folks for what was coming, in sense like, okay, if I offend, sometimes I would apologize in advance for something that, while really it's just gentle, but for somebody else, or to give the audience permission to laugh at it, because I'm not trying to be hurtful with it. Now, sometimes it's just stunning. You think like, how can this possibly
Mm,
be
be
hurtful to someone when they've heard my heart for 60 minutes, and they're going to get offended at this point in the show for that? Like, really? But yeah, it happens. I'll tell you, this is a story. My most requested song through the years is a song called the Dyslexic Love Song, and and so
I
through the years,
remember that.
and I've had a handful of people. Maybe I can count on one hand. Maybe 3 or 4 times where someone has been offended, like, oh, you're making fun of people with dyslexia, or whatever. There's that kind of thing. But I it's so here's the story. I'm at an event in I think it was Wisconsin,
Mm.
And so the event, it just rocks. And this is back in the days where we actually like sold stuff at the product table in large
Yes.
amounts, the
Yes.
good old days. And
Yeah.
so after the event, I'm back at the product table, and I've got, I don't know if they were even CDs at that point. They might have been cassettes, okay, and T-shirts and whatnot. And people are coming. It's like it was just an electric night, and some people
Yeah.
buying stuff. And then there was this woman. I was probably in my, I don't know, I was probably 45, 50, and there was this
Mm.
woman kind of behind me in her 60s, and just with this scowl on her face.
Ooh.
And so I knew she wanted to talk to me, and it's like, but I'm busy, and the people, oh, I how you're great. Oh, this is okay. I'm soaking in. Yeah, you're right. I am great. No, no. So, so I finally I got a little break, and I turned to her and said, "I can help you." She said, "I just want you to know, I have a dyslexic child, and I hope one day you have a dyslexic child, so you
Wow.
will know the pain." And she is just pouring this venom. She hates my existence. She is cursing my potential future family. She's so angry. And I wanted to talk because I knew she was just pain. If she was in pain, and
Mm.
I pulled that scab off, and she just, and then and I wanted to talk, and then she just left. And I'm like,
Oh.
oh, and I take that all seriously. And the man. 100 people can praise you. One person says something negative,
Oh,
and
that's it.
you're like,
That's
I
it.
can't even sleep tonight. It's that kind
That's
of deal.
it.
So I'm just shredded to my soul. And then I turn, and I swear, a Hollywood director could not have turned this better. I turned, and this kid with a smile as big as the moon said, "Hi, I'm dyslexic. I think you're great." And he shook my
Yes.
hand. And his mom
Oh.
was there beaming like, oh, he has a dyslexic hero because, this song, you wrote a song for my
Oh.
son. So
Oh.
same people, same event. For one, I was the curse and maybe the worst thing she had ever heard. She felt like I was mocking her pain. And the other, I was releasing this kid to embrace who he was, and it was marvelous. And so that's the way it is. Sometimes you just have to live with it. You pray through things. I've changed material. I've prayed about things.
Mm.
I pray over stuff even now. Like, Lord, I think this is funny. I think this is fair. But if it's going to hurt the message, or if it's not going to be helpful, even if I think it's a great bit and it kills in the,
I know
yeah,
the feeling.
and you got to put it on the altar sometimes. And, uh, and it's painful. It's very hard to do, especially if you've really crafted something you think is good and you can make the legal case why it ought to be okay. But then that's when your comedian friends, or you have to have, hopefully before you get it out there and,
Yeah.
get banned for life in all media
I
platforms, they catch you like, the
eh,
tone there, not worth it. Be careful. Uh, but it's, I know you've been through that through the years,
oh
it's
yeah.
just like, oh man, but
I write
it's very
bits.
hard. It's very hard.
Yes. I write bits with Robert G. Lee. I come excited. Well, once a month we get together and
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm like, here's what I wrote. And I think it's going to be hilarious. And he goes, you can't do that. You
Yeah.
can't do that. And then he does bits. I go, Robert, you're not going to do that at a church, are you? He goes, why not? I go,
Yeah.
because this, and that. He goes, oh, okay, so that's good to have, Christian. It's funny.
Yeah.
The time just flew, Paul. You're an amazing storyteller and all that. What I want you to encourage the people listening. There's some widows. There's some single people. There's some people who think, "Oh, you know what? That's it. My clock ticked enough.
Mm,
There's no hope for me. I'm turning
yeah.
40, or I am 55, and I been divorced, and there's a hope for me."
Yeah.
What do you to encourage these people with as we close?
Wow. I don't have any magic formula. Marriage is wonderful and hard, and single life can be wonderful and hard. And I just Jesus got a hold of me, and let him get a hold of you. If you're soft in Jesus, then get strong in him. Seek him like there's no tomorrow. Seek him like never before. because I just believe that's where the energy is going to happen, the ability to persevere. There, we live
Mm.
in a spiritual battle. There's an enemy that wants to stop you. We have to remind ourselves there's a battle every day for your heart and mind. And but through Jesus we can be victorious. And I just encourage you, wherever you are, in your loneliness, in your, oh my gosh, this family of mine is wearing me out, wherever you are on that spectrum, Jesus is still the answer. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He'll be with you
Amen.
in every season. Invite him in, and then invite him in again. And every day you do that, you'll make it. You their strength will come, the joy will come in the morning, and he'll lead you through each day.
Amen. Great words, Paul. Thank you so much. How can people get a hold of you to book you or to go see you and all that?
You can go to Paul Aldrich. That's Aldrich. PaulAldrich.com. You follow me on Facebook, also YouTube, all those kinds of things. My Paul Aldrich and Friends variety show happens in Franklin, but I think we're going to be streaming that pretty regularly soon. So if you go to Paul Aldrich and Friends on Facebook and get like that page, you'll get information about that. And if you ever come to Nashville, definitely check my calendar, because we got shows coming on up soon. I'll be on Huckabee in August.
Oh, good.
I've got a dry bar special. I don't know when it's coming out. You never know with those guys, but so
Yeah,
that's coming up as well. So, but paulaldrich.com will kind of be a vehicle to get you where you want to go.
perfect. Thank you so much. Send my love to Kim, and
I will.
hopefully we'll work together soon.
Oh man, yeah. Let me know if you're coming through Nashville, dude. We'll hang.
I will do that. Love you, man. Thank you so
Love you.
much, Paul.
You're welcome.
All All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And it's so good. Great wisdom from a wonderful, funny comedian and musician together in a beautiful way. PaulAldrich.com. And also, I want to remind you, tonight is our show number 301 of the Live with Naz at 8:30 p.m. Pacific time. If you stay up late in the East Coast, you're going to enjoy it. And if you're in the West Coast or in Midwest and you need an hour of laughter and encouragement, just go to Comedian Nazareth at 8:30 p.m. Pacific time and laugh with us for an hour. You'll be the comedian. I'll just read what you comment and make others laugh. Love you guys. Thank you for watching, and hope to see you soon. Thank you so much. God bless.